Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. Some really weird news today. You know, the cryptocurrency space is always very weird. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Japanese e-commerce firm known as Rakuten announced that a major update of its Rakuten Pay mobile app will be released on the 18th of March. According to the firm's 2018's earnings release, published on the 12th of February, the app's new structure appears to indicate that it will support cryptocurrency payments in addition to fiat. According to the company's presentation material for the fourth quarter and the full year of 2018, the new version of the app will feature all payment solutions embedded into one platform. As Cointelegraph reported in January, and the recent materials confirm, Rakutan, known as the Amazon of Japan, if you will, revealed a revision to its corporate structure. The restructured company includes the firm's cryptocurrency exchange known as Everybody's Bitcoin as part of a newly established payment subsidiary, Rakuten Payment. The payment subsidiary, which was previously its loyalty subsidiary under the name Spotlight, will also include the corporation's prepaid card service called Rakuten Eddy. I'm going to say Eddy. The firm's earnings release specifies that Eddy will be supported in the updated app and also indicates support for QR code payments. Though the app updates does not explicitly note crypto support, the company's specification that all payment solutions will be supported on the platform implies support for crypto payments as part of the subsidiary Rakutan Payment. Rakuten acquired Japanese crypto exchange Everybody's Bitcoin in August 2018 in a $2.4 million deal. At the time, company representatives reported that the firm was considering entry into the cryptocurrency exchange industry as it believes that the role of cryptocurrency-based payments in e-commerce and offline retail and peer-to-peer payments will grow in the future. So, first of all, this is incredibly large. I'm not really surprised by something like this. For some reason, it appears to me that they are in Asia, so you can call them the Asian countries. They have completely gotten it together when it comes to cryptocurrencies. They didn't have, what's really interesting about the overall Asian economy, especially if you want to focus on Asia and I guess other parts of Asia, is that they never really went through the entire swift revolution that the rest of the world kind of was forced into a little bit. So they lived in a world where there were no credit cards, and then they kind of went almost immediately to digital payments. They also kind of skipped over the entire paying with check thing, which is still kind of popular in the United States, and I guess maybe to a very lesser degree also in parts of Europe. So we've had a lot of news from places in Asia and other places, and I guess more specifically also in Japan, that have announced multiple times. So I guess we should have seen this coming, that they were talking about the future of cryptocurrencies and exactly how large they were going to become and exactly where they were going to go. And especially when you get an indication that a major company like Japan's Amazon has pretty much purchased a cryptocurrency exchange known as Everybody's Bitcoin, where this is all kind of going once again. And it's kind of the weirdest thing about all of it, I guess, is that everything is once again leading up to the same exact time frame of March 2000, not 2018 anyway, March 18th, 2019, but it's still the March time frame. We are a little bit past the halfway mark for February, but it's still interesting to note that nearly every single company, every single entity, structure, whatever you want to call them, they're still all gunning for this same exact time frame. I think this should have a bit of a significant movement thing happening with the prices of cryptocurrency, simply because you may have never used Rakuten yourself, but it's still extremely large. They're still a very well-known company. I don't know when or if we're going to get clarification from companies like Amazon or eBay and stuff like that, when they're going to be accepting or dealing in cryptocurrencies, but I think it's going to happen eventually at some point. It's just a matter of kind of when. It's just still interesting to me that other countries understand and see what's coming very, very clearly, and they kind of are making sure that they integrate all of these things into their payment systems and platforms before, I guess, even the major companies end up doing so. I find it very interesting. Anyway, we'll see, I guess, within a couple weeks if this actually is true. And yeah, let's move on. Next up. So this is, it may not seem like it, but it's actually quite significant. Schnorr signature, sorry again for the clearing of the throat, is just, it's life. People were complaining before that I was clearing my throat, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I have human problems. Schnorr signatures, a code change likely to be one of the biggest coming upgrades to Bitcoin, has now undergone a theoretical idea to real code courtesy of technology startup known as Blockstream, the people who pretty much build on top of Bitcoin. Announced on Monday, Blockstream has added a technology known as Musig to its test cryptographic library, making it possible for developers to tinker with Schnorr signature schemes and potentially find bugs. That the code is being opened to the public to test is an exciting step because if Schnorr is one day added to Bitcoin, the new digital signature scheme could add privacy and Bitcoin scalability improvements down the line. As such, developers have been eyeing the technology for quite some time. Blockstream mathematician Andrew Polstra wrote in the announcement blog, he said, "We've been tuning Musig for the academic paper into usable code, and this week we merged that code into SKEP256K1ZKP, a fork of the other one that was before it, the high assurance cryptographic library used by Bitcoin Core." For those who... So I know this sounds negligible almost, like you may even read it and go, well, that's not really that important or significant. It kind of is if you look at it from the side of the Bitcoin's eyes, if that kind of makes a lot of sense. What ends up happening is that especially if you've had the chance to listen to Andreas Antonopoulos or any of the other, and I mean like hyper Bitcoin maximalists, like Bitcoin is the only coin, Bitcoin will only be the only coin. The whole purpose is, this, I guess 10% is my opinion and the other 90% is from the conversations that they've had before. What it comes down to is that now Bitcoin is its own brand. 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, people thought, Bitcoin won't really last. We have Litecoin. Litecoin's faster than Litecoin, could take over Bitcoin's place. Bitcoin is the name of the game right now. Whether we want to admit it or not, it controls everything in the cryptocurrency space. When Bitcoin goes up, everything else goes up. So you have to be incredibly sure about anything that you're even thinking of proposing to be built on top of Bitcoin or to be built on top of a sidechain or to be built on top of any other layer on top of it, because if you ruin the name of the game, you kind of ruin everything. It's kind of like, imagine if people were just throwing updates onto the internet all the time. Like imagine the internet as like one whole entity and, not, separated by country or so, how people in certain countries can just turn off the internet. Anyway, the point is, imagine someone implementing code every single day, new updates, and then everyone around the world at the entire time is affected. Like imagine if you release something on top of the Bitcoin code that isn't good for the Bitcoin code, that allows other people to exploit it, therefore kind of tear it apart. If someone ends up finding some type of code inside of it that allows them to create even one more Bitcoin, this kind of destroys the philosophy of the 21 million thing. So whenever anything is proposed or even spoken about to be built on top of Bitcoin, it goes through so much scrutiny for years and years and years. Like this is not the first time that we've heard about Schnorr signatures being built on top of Bitcoin. There's a huge movement, and I hope that they wait at least another year and a half. There's a huge movement by the Blockstream people and many other people in the cryptocurrency community, especially those who are building on top of Bitcoin, to have these private transaction layers and to eventually have Bitcoin just to be private. As in, this is where we once again get those ideas of, we won't need Monero, we won't need Zcash, we won't need so-and-so. And so it comes down to the idea that if, Bitcoin can, in theory, because it is technology the same as the other coins, have these other layers and other things built on top of it that will allow it to have these private transactions, and should eventually, it will one day have these things, then therefore we no longer need the other altcoins because Bitcoin is then as superior as them. Just a little understanding of why sometimes you hear people say that Bitcoin is going to be the only coin. Anyway, the point is, this has been spoken about for quite some time. I don't think we're going to have anything like this on Bitcoin for a while. And the reason why I said I hope that they don't end up doing this for like another year or two, because I think within the next year, I think Bitcoin will have permeated so deep into society, because every single time that we have, the price is right here. Every time we have a shot up, people desperately fall into the market. By the time we get around back here in prices, people have left the market, but not everyone has. And all the other people as well, before who even took their money out of the market, they're also sometimes waiting for prices to kind of pick back up again so that they can kind of go back into the market. And every single boom and bust cycle, we have more and more people getting into cryptocurrency. And since we've had a very long bust cycle that's been going on for 14 months now, the next boom is expected to be quite a big boom. So if we can get a couple more 100 million people, I know that sounds like a ridiculous number, but if we can get an enormous amount of people into the cryptocurrency space and have Bitcoin, well, first of all, everyone knows what a Bitcoin is, but have it be like an actual proper household name, have backed going, have it be, you know, when you sign on to, you know, any website, if you go into Amazon, go into eBay, go into anywhere, and you're trying to check out, next to the little thing that says you can pay in PayPal, having it say you can pay in cryptocurrencies, we need this moment to kind of happen. Once Bitcoin is a household name and then they implement all these things on top of it, there's kind of really no getting rid of it there's no real getting rid of it at this point anyway, but you kind of all get what I'm saying. It's very, very interesting. Anything that's ever proposed for Bitcoin takes like a long time for people to even think about announcing that they thought about the implementation of potentially putting this on a test net to maybe one day have it put on top of Bitcoin, because as of right now, Bitcoin has not suffered any 51% attacks. It has not really suffered anything, even though before in the past I was listening to a podcast and they said one of the things that has made Bitcoin so resilient is that when it was possible to have a 51% attack on Bitcoin, when it was possible for you to have enough resources and money to, you know, a couple $100 million to be able to destroy the chain, no one paid attention to it. No one thought that Bitcoin was going to be anything. So when Bitcoin's price was around $2, $3, $4, $5, $7, $8, $9, people could have completely wiped out the chain, but it was seen as nerd money. And now the fact that it's so big, it would potentially take $1 trillion to kind of even think of doing something detrimental to the code of Bitcoin. But even then, like Andreas Antonopoulos said, all you would pretty much have to do would fork it exactly where that attack happened and continue on with the normal Bitcoin chain. So it's all kind of interesting, at least to me. I find it interesting. So eventually we will have some of these things built on top of Bitcoin, but it will take years because they're trying to make sure that the code is correct, because anything you put onto Bitcoin is more or less there, because you would have to then get consensus all over again from the entire community that you want to take this thing out. And this is why we have a problem with so many forks and non-forks and soft forks and blah, blah, blah forks. And anyway, let's move on. Sorry, my goodness. It's so crazy. I had tea like right before this as well. It doesn't seem to really be doing anything. I guess it's just that time of year, like right before you get to spring, you know. Anyway, I found this one kind of interesting as well. It says Galaxy, a self-proclaimed cryptocurrency accumulation machine, recently remarked that from his point of view, Bitcoin's market dominance is going to be in for a tough time. Citing historical trends, the preeminent analyst noted that much like the broader crypto market dominance has and will likely continue to undergo long-term cycles over the course of months and years. In his eyes, the recent buildup in Bitcoin dominance, underscored by 2018 bear market, will end in a breakdown, whereas the market will enter the so-called altcoin season. And with Bitcoin's dominance uptrend longest, the weakest so far, Galaxy remarked that he wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin's share of the cumulative value of cryptocurrencies is to fall under 30%. This would not surprise me at all. For those who were around in 2017, and I guess even if you're here right now, when you look at Bitcoin's dominance on the charts, it's constantly over 50% of the entire market. So Bitcoin has a share of 50% of all the money that's flowing through cryptocurrencies. Whenever we have a situation where Bitcoin goes up, we have, let's say 10 days of run-ups in price and Bitcoin goes up by 4, 5, 6, 7%, the altcoins tend to go up by around 14%. 22%. They have a much easier time flicking themselves up, and this kind of happens every single time that we have like some type of a run up. But what's different about this time is that last time it was kind of like a Bitcoin and those other coins on the side that look kind of cool. Maybe I'll put some money into them, and people were throwing money at them, but people were throwing more money at Bitcoin, and this is how we got to the $20,000 mark. What's happened since then is that we have a lot of coins who have not only solidified themselves, but they're seen as coins that are probably, air quotes, never going to leave the market, i.e. Ethereum, XRP, EOS, I guess to a lesser extent, Cardano, Binance coin, some coins like that. So a lot more people are going to be paying more attention to the altcoins that we actually have out there. It's going to be a very interesting situation because I don't see Bitcoin fading away or disappearing because of alt season or altcoin season or altcoins, rising rapidly in price. But it's definitely not going to have as much sway on the market as it does, especially since this is why I said I thought it was very interesting that so many other cryptocurrency exchanges are now adding not only other altcoin pairings, which is very, very interesting because before everything had to go through Bitcoin, but we're also seeing a lot of cryptocurrency exchanges adding Ethereum and adding XRP as a base pair, which means that you can now completely circumvent Bitcoin and go into Ethereum, like buy Ethereum or buy XRP and kind of swap back and forth between those. It's going to be quite interesting. I want to see exactly how low the number is going to go. This will probably make history. I think the lowest we got in 2017 was 31%. And that was like oh my gosh, is Bitcoin dead? Kind of, no, Bitcoin's not dead. It's just that with so many altcoins, it's clear that more people are going to get into the less expensive coins because a lot of times people do find more value and not even like a potential upside. We know that altcoins tend to outperform Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's been here the longest, so this is why many coins are probably not going to reach Bitcoin's price anytime soon. And when they do, Bitcoin's value itself will be 20x even what it is right now. Going to kind of breeze-ish over this one. Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin and other core devs have dismissed allegations that a new smart contract creation feature set to be released in the forthcoming Constantinople hard fork will have negative security implementations. The discussion was held during an Ethereum core developer call on the 15th of February. The feature is called Create 2, designated as Ethereum Improvement Proposal or EIP 1014, and is intended to allow for interactions with a contract that does not yet exist on the blockchain. Specifically, addresses do not exist yet on chain but can be relied on to only potentially eventually contain code. Several Ethereum developers have voiced concerns that Create 2 could introduce a potentially serious attack vector to the network, given the implementation that the smart contract could purportedly be coded to change their address after being deployed. One had questioned whether the feature doesn't mean that any contract post-Constantinople will self-destruct. A function in its code is now more suspect than before. And I don't really know why. I guess maybe everyone's being a bit more critical because Constantinople is coming up, and I told you this is it. Like, this is the moment that we've been waiting for a very long time. A lot of people have been coming forward rapidly talking about, and I think it's interesting how much, and it's not even just like attacks, but how many people are a lot more critical of Ethereum and exactly what's happening with the project and how much more they think that things could potentially go wrong. It's funny that when we have situations where we have or going to have major upgrades on a coin or network, no one says anything about a month or two before, but the moment we get to, Constantinople is like 8 days away at this point. How many people we have coming out of the woodworks talking about how detrimental this could be, how there could be certain vulnerabilities, and it's like no one was talking about this before, but for some reason, whenever something is about to come out and improve the network, there's always someone, and I would not be surprised if, because there are people squawking in the background talking about how this could be detrimental for the code, if they announce in the next couple of days that they're going to be forking Ethereum to try and create their own new coin from this once again. I don't know if these are cash grabs. I don't know if these people actually care about the actual code and the project, but you do have to admit being able to fork a cryptocurrency and kind of create a $1.5 billion marketplace overnight is a little tempting, especially depending on how greedy one might be. Every single time these things or something like that comes up, Vitalik Buterin and I guess to a lesser extent Joseph Lubin are very quick to go on social media and kind of completely destroy anyone who's not talking negatively about it, but who kind of says that something negative could happen. I don't understand what the fascination is. I mean, I get it. People don't want this bad code or illicit code to be written into the actual project. But it's really funny that they only seem to ramp up their opposition as we get very, very close to the actual upgrade. And this would have been a surprise about a couple of years ago, but the fact that we now have 47 forks of Bitcoin, And, to a lesser extent, people have been whispering on the side that they're thinking about forking Ethereum once again. Just tells me that someone, at least one person behind the scenes, is just thinking about creating their own new cryptocurrency for the money. At least in my opinion. Next up, Indonesia. Bitcoin traders have fled cryptocurrency exchanges and they have moved to local Bitcoins. In the week, the government enacted anti-money laundering regulation for the industry. Data from CoinDance, which tracks weekly local Bitcoins volumes of various markets, confirms a huge spike for the 7 days ending on the 16th of February, that's a couple days ago. Local Bitcoins functions on a peer-to-peer basis, with users creating and accepting private sales of Bitcoin for fiat currency and vice versa. Just be careful. There have been a couple of, I want to say, muggings, robberies when it comes to things like this. If you're meeting someone, people create accounts and they're like, yeah, I have, they probably have it, 100, 200 Bitcoin. And someone's like, hey, I have $5,000. I want to buy a Bitcoin and then some. And a lot of people have been getting roughed up for their money, so please be careful. It's not the safest way to buy. According to CoinDance data, traders exchanged over $730 last week, dwarfing the previous $319,000 set the week before. Here's the actual spike right here for Indonesia. The phenomenon coincided with an announcement from the Indonesian Commodities Futures Trading Regulatory Agency, also known as BPETI, formalizing the need for exchanges to comply with anti-money laundering laws as part of a push to recognize cryptocurrency as a tradable commodity. Same exact thing that happened in Venezuela. It's not a mistake or random that these spikes actually end up happening whenever governments implement laws, because especially if you're not in these countries, when you dig a bit deeper and trying to figure out exactly how far the laws actually go, some of them they're not draconian, but they're very invasive. They want to know how much you're buying, why you're buying it, where you're buying it from, who's selling it to you. You have to give them your address and your information. And it's kind of like if you were buying a bottle of shampoo, do you have to give your address? Do you have to let them know why you're buying the shampoo? You could be washing your hair, you could be washing your dog. It's getting very weird. And this is I'm glad that people in these countries have figured out what Bitcoin is. I hope that they continue to use cryptocurrencies to their benefit so that they can, especially in Venezuela, get food, feed and support their families. But it's always, for some reason, the countries that could be benefiting the most from these cryptocurrencies, they are the most adamant in trying to stop people from using them in their country. I'm not sure if it's Indonesia, but what was the other country that we were talking about a day or two ago? That you had to have $71 million if you wanted to start a futures contract within their country. And it's like, with $3 million, you can fly to Europe, you can buy a passport, and you can spend $500,000 creating a futures project in some other country. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. Eventually they will buckle under the pressure and kind of make things a bit better for people in their country. But as of right now, they're making sure that they make things as difficult as possible. And I wouldn't be surprised if behind the scenes, all the governments who are making it the most difficult for their citizens are the governments who are also buying up these cryptocurrencies for themselves, which is kind of weird because you would assume, imagine a situation, stay with me for a second. Can you imagine not owning a country, but being the ruler of a country, realizing how big that Bitcoin, Litecoin, XRP, and Ethereum are, and you told your citizens, buy these coins because the government themselves are also buying them? I don't know how you would do that in secret, but I guess I watch too many movies, but it would be kind of cool. You could make your entire country, every citizen in your country, extremely wealthy. I don't know. I think I watched too many movies. Anyway, let's move on. To kind of finish things up, United States Commodity and Futures Trading Commission, or the CFTC, Commissioner Brian Quintes has suggested that participants in the cryptocurrency industry should create a self-regulatory structure. Quintes made his remarks during a bipartisan policy center panel held on the 12th of February. More precisely, Quintes said that because of the CFTC's lack of crypto statutory oversight capability, he suggested that crypto platforms come together to form some type of self-regulatory structure where they can discuss, agree to, implement, and hopefully examine or audit. According to Quintez, such an organization could carry out audits concerning conflicts of interest, business conduct, insider trading, redemptions, custody, and liquidity. Still, the CFTC commissioner also pointed out that a self-regulatory organization is specifically chartered by Congress through the law, while this would only be a mutual association or private companies participating in the industry. Securities and Exchange Commissioner SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce, who was also a speaker at the panel, reiterated how confusing the current regulation of the crypto industry is. As well, Pierce pointed out the lack of regulation on the Bitcoin markets is not a reason to disapprove an exchange-traded fund on Bitcoin. We have a couple of, there was something that we had in 2018, we had two of them. We had the Winklevoss twins create something with, was it with Novogratz? I can't remember exactly who it was, where they were trying to create their own self-regulatory body. And then we had, I think, Coinbase and two other places, can't remember them. They were also trying to create their own self-regulatory body. I think this is the way that things are trying to go. I think, logically, the way that the CFTC and the SEC could kind of get around the lawsuits that they think or probably know that they are going to have on their backs because of the whole security thing and what's not a security, is to simply create or allow the creation of a self-regulatory organization, which I kind of approve. If we're going to have regulations, I would rather have people within crypto who know what a hard fork or soft fork is, who know what the industry actually does and is and how it functions, create some type of, not laws, but, guidance on how things should be run within the cryptocurrency space, and then kind of, give this back to the CFTC and SEC and go, this is what's happened, this is what's going on, as opposed to the CFTC or the SEC or the IRS regulating us themselves, since they probably don't have as much knowledge about blockchain in their own right. So hopefully this ends up going through. Hopefully we have an actual established one, because I think the ones that have kind of launched in the US are more or less, how do you say this? I feel like they're more or less, janky is not the word I'm looking for. They're kind of like, they banded together. Like, it feels like someone wrote each other in a text message and they were like, yeah, we can do this. And then they made an announcement that they are some new self-regulatory body. Nothing really official, but hopefully this does actually end up taking off, because I think it could be good, especially, whatever. I mean, I'm not keen on the idea of having the SEC or the CFTC have any real say in the cryptocurrency space, because they have no idea what they're doing. And this is why I think it's taken them so long, because they don't even know what a blockchain is. So yeah, let's hope this actually ends up taking off, as they say. To kind of finish things off, markets doing pretty good. I am holding my breath, because according to many analysts and many people out there, they think this could be it. No one knows what's going to happen. We had a lot of murmuring and talk before that Bitcoin was going to drop down to 1,200, going to drop down to 1,700, 1,800, $2,000, 2,100, 2,200. I'm pretty sure you all remember these wacky and weird numbers. We had Bitcoin at 3,200 just a couple of days ago. Now we are scratching very close. Like, Bitcoin just has to sneeze and it'll go over 4,000. We are very close. 2,000 does not look as likely right now, especially because when you factor in how much it costs to create a Bitcoin through mining, through the actual fundamentals and the actual usage of Bitcoin, and how many, even the daily volume, we've typically before seen Bitcoin's volume floating around 4 billion, 4.5 billion, somewhere around, like, even Ethereum is usually around a 1.8 billion. XRP is usually around half a billion, somewhere around there. So every coin is, I think the market is ready. It would be great if we were already over 4,000. However, this is just how the market kind of plays out. Ethereum is potentially going up because of Constantinople launching in a couple of days. There's no real XRP news, but it's nice to see that everything is going up for some reason. And I've been looking around, and a lot of people haven't been able to really find any concrete information, but EOS is losing its mind. It's up 22% for those who aren't looking at the screen. Anyway, I don't want to say this is it, but let's hope that this is the beginning of it, because it would kind of be nice if we could pass by 4,200 by the end of this week. I'll even give it, a little bit of time. That'd be kind of great. Anyway, I think that is definitely going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever in this crazy world you might be. I hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and listening. I do appreciate all of your support, more than you know. As always, a very, very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. They are Vlad the Impaler, Gil Boa Snake, Rai, Brady Niels, L. Doug, Arthur Yaku, Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Nick Mangialavori, Travis Haynes, Gordon Nikic, Yasha Harari, Anthony Charles, Nick Kanaya, singer, songwriter Mike Savitz, and Zoltar2. Thank you all very much for your generosity. I do appreciate it very, very, very much. And yeah, I'll talk to you all soon. See you.